Now I'd like to introduce our final speaker for the day, also from Valencia High School, ELD teacher and coordinator, Teresa Shermer. Please join me in welcoming her.
Thank you, first of all, to the district for asking me to share with you today. But maybe not. Is it too late to change my mind? Because this is really scary, sharing in front of my peers, and I have been a nervous wreck for like a week. Many of you know that. So I am honored, seriously, I am honored and humbled to get this unique opportunity to be the voice of my EL students and everyone who works with ELs in our district, who are all doing amazing things at their sites. Although I got to share with the elementary teams yesterday, you secondary educators are my people. As we all know, secondary has a uniquely different set of issues with ELs. The newcomers have so much pressure and little time to meet graduation requirements. And by high school, the long-term English learners have experienced year after year of being left behind watching their classmates reclassify and have become defeated and disenfranchised. So there are many different hows as there are teachers in this theater. My how may or may not work for you. So I thought I'd share my why instead, because it isn't my how that has kept me working with ELs. It's my why that's kept me working them for over 30 years. Now, the rewards are huge with both the newcomer and long-term English learner ELD populations. Teaching newcomers is the closest we secondary teachers get to witnessing the magic that happens when a child first begins to read. I saw that for the first time when my own children began reading, and it's truly a miracle. We don't get to see that. However, I get to see it with my newcomers. I get to see light bulbs every day in every student. Now, my first time seeing the light bulb come on was in 1978 in 4th grade at Sierra Vista Elementary. Yay. When my teacher at the time asked me to go outside with the absolute cutest boy in school. It's 1978. He had flipped back feathered hair, kind of like we're starting to see again, right? He looked like Leif Garrett, and he was dreamy. And I'm like, sure, I'll definitely go outside. And I'm an English teacher, and the irony is I was helping him with his math. So if you know me, that's truly ironic. And so we sat out at the lunch tables, and I explained something to him, and I saw the light bulb come on. He got it. And I was hooked. And that's when I knew. I made the decision that moment, that day, that that's what I wanted to do. And I shared this with the elementary yesterday, but I decided, when I couldn't sleep last night, I decided to add the rest of the story. So my kids were about 6 and 8. I was near my house in Orange, and I was at a Baskin-Robbins getting ice cream for the kids. And this man kept looking at me and staring at me. And I thought, okay, well, that's random, you know. And then he said, "Are you Teresa Christian?" which is my maiden name. And I said, "Yeah." And it was him. Yeah. And he looked at my kids, and he said, "Your mom is the reason I graduated from high school." And it's funny because every year when my students would ask me, we talk about, career goals. And, in my 18 years as AVID coordinator, and we did a lot of stuff with goals. And the students would ask me, when did I know that I wanted to be a teacher? And I would tell that story every single year, and all of a sudden he's standing in front of me. And so, we don't know what ripples we're creating. We have no idea, because I swear I did not talk to him in high school. I mean, he's referring back to elementary school. I didn't help him in high school. But in his mind, what I did then helped forever. So I have spent all of these years chasing light bulbs. Now, teaching newcomers, I get to witness literal miracles, like my two girls, Monica and Fernanda. Fernanda and Monica were both freshmen in fall of 2019 in my new emerging newcomer block, and although very well educated and very studious, they had zero English, which is why they're with me, because I'm the first stop. Now, COVID was hard on everyone, but on March 13th, we were sent home, and they had just entered the country that fall, and one in that December. And my newcomers, we didn't do any direct instruction for the rest of that year. My absolute newcomers had to try to learn English with just what I was sending them home. And it hit all of our ELs probably the hardest. And despite the challenges, they were doing so well that their junior year, we recruited them for AVID. And they both flourished and not only met their graduation requirements, but they met their A through G requirements in a second language. As seniors last year, they were both accepted to a variety of universities, including UC Riverside, Cal Poly Pomona, Cal State Fullerton, Cal State Long Beach. And they came running into, I didn't say this yesterday either, they made a sign, and they came running into my room with this big sign saying, "We got our acceptance to the university, Mrs. Shermer." I have it up behind my desk. And yeah, they're the exception. Not all of our newcomers do that. Some do. And they're not the only two we've ever had that have done this kind of miraculous work, but they're the exceptions. What they did was nothing short of miraculous. I ask myself, and I ask you, could I have done the same? Could you have done the same? Could you have gone to another country your freshman year of high school, not knowing the language, and managed to graduate with their graduation requirements, and of course with these, and so that happens regularly with our newcomers. And then, of course, to go beyond and meet the university requirements. So I wasn't the reason for their success. I was just a conduit. I established their English foundation, made them think they could, and helped them feel at home in their new country. But it was all of us at the school each year doing the same that let them accomplish the seemingly impossible. Now, the rewards I get from working with long-term English learners in my expanding 9 ELD classes are also huge, but in a very different way. Where the newcomers are really quick to trust me, it takes time to connect with many of our LTALs. I build the trust by getting them to focus on the successes until they believe in themselves as much as I believe in them. And my rewards from watching them start to get better grades, a lot of our support is about I'm not just their ELD teacher, but I'm watching them in all their grades. I want them to reclassify them. They need to be successful everywhere, and of course to graduate. And so, every Friday we look at Aries, and I have a little worksheet they do where they write down their percentages, and so I'm right next to them going, yay, you went from a 79 to an 80, or whatever it is for each student. And so celebrating those successes percentage point at a time. And then in their LPAC, possibly getting a better score, every year encouraging and working with them, even when they're no longer my students. And then hopefully getting to reclassify them and ultimately watching them on the field in cap and gown at the end of those years, statistically probably being the first in our family to graduate from high school. 2 examples of my long-term English learners are Judith and Edwin, and I had them both, they were both seniors last year as well, and I had them both in my expanding 9 class their freshman year. Now Judith was a fantastic student in class. She's actually a legitimate angel. I mean, this child, those of us who've had her, she's amazing. And I was shocked. I mean, she's the one who's like smiling, and in high school, we don't get those that often, right? The one that's like, you're talking and they're smiling at you and nodding. And so, when I got her first set of grades, her progress report came out, I was shocked because she was such a good student in class, and she had D's and F's, and she was under a 1.0. And I just sat her down and I said, what's going on? Because I have to tell you that what I see in class and what I'm seeing in your report card look like two very different things. I just don't see that student. What can we do? And so we sat down and we kind of made a goal, and by that first semester, she was up over a 3.0. And I think she just had to believe in herself a little bit more, and when we believe in them, they can start to believe in themselves. And she ended up, Judith was my bilingual aide for my newcomer class last year, and almost acted as she's a student aide, but she acted as a paraprofessional running her own groups. And then we got to select her. She was selected by our site to be our collaboration medallion winner last year. And she got to stand up on this stage. Her mom was there. I was there celebrating her, and her mom was there. And her mom told me that it was the proudest she's ever been of her daughter in her whole life. And so we don't know we just don't know the ripples of those conversations, those early conversations that will have on their paths. Edwin had been in LPAC 4, came to me in my expanding 9, and he'd been in LPAC 4 for years. And we ELD coordinators know when we get that, and his scores were in the 1700s, and it only takes a 1605 to qualify. So we know it's not ability. And so he just couldn't get those other two requirements of the district writing and the language arts grade, or the overall 2.0. And so I had him as a student, and I still couldn't get him through. Daily encouragement, and it just wasn't going to happen. And so I worked with his teachers, even after I had him as a student. I knew he could do it based on his LPAC scores, and all of a sudden, senior year fall, everything came together, and we were able to reclassify him and watch him walk out in cap and gown as well. It's these success stories that we as teachers get to experience year after year after year. Never forget that we're changing the world one student at a time, and especially with our EL families, in doing so, changing the trajectories of families. So in closing, remember your why this school year while we work together toward tomorrow. Here's to a wonderful 23-24, everyone. Thank you.